here, not add a playoff caliber starter.
We did not go into the deadline with, hey, we have to get this, have to get that. We're just trying to make the team better. So you don't look at it that way because, like I mentioned before, a few years ago we could have gotten one of the elite starters in the game, but Drake Baldwin would have been going out the door. So um, not to say those are easy decisions. You obviously you'd like to get deals done. You find a way, but there's certain asks that you say yes to, and those are the deals that you do, and certain ones that you say no to. So in past years, there's been guys like Harris you get asked about when he's in A ball and he's in Rome, and you say no. So you're always trying to manage the short term and the long term. So um, you go into these things with how can we make the team better, and is there something that you think is the right thing for the organization to do?
Are you comfortable with the pitching staff you have in place with the
Yes,
depth?
yes.
Why so?
Since the All-Star break, I think we've been fifth in ERA in MLB. First 2 months of the season, we were top five in ML and ERA. Obviously, in the middle, we weren't. Does that mean you're not looking to get better? Absolutely, in all areas, bullpen, offense, rotation, yes. But you're managing short term, long term, and you're going to do what you feel is best for the club, and you're not going to force a deal. So, we said no to a lot of things, and that's not easy to do, but you have to do what you feel is right for the organization.
Alex, are you better than you were yesterday? And if so,
Yes.
how? How?
We added players to the big league roster that we felt we improved the club. We got a really good team. I mean, we're in first place. We're playing really well out of the break. Our offense has come back to life. We've pitched like we did early in the year. Um, we had a rough June. There's no doubt about that. But the way we're playing coming out of the break has been great. And we feel like with the guys we added, we made the club stronger.
Hey, Alex, I mean, considering the strength of the Braves farm system, how do you evaluate the decision to just, add Tyler Mahle when, you see other teams like the Padres who have significantly less than you guys acquire much more?
I don't understand that question. The way you worded that just doesn't make any sense. So we'll see how Tyler Mahle does,
Mhm.
and you can have your thoughts and your opinions, and that's great. And obviously, like I said the other day when you'd asked me, we're going to find out obviously in a month or two or whatever it is. Our farm system, yeah, it's strong. I totally agree with you. That's one thing I do agree with you on. It is strong. Uh, People asked about a lot of our top players, and there's a bunch that we made available for certain players that we felt were impact difference making guys. And then there were other times that we were asked for some of those guys that we said no. So what any one club does not impact us, right? So you pointed out one specific team. I have all the respect in the world for that team. We have teams in our division. We're trying to win the division, obviously make the postseason. We've never reacted to what teams do around us. We have to do what's right for us, and we've always operated that way. We're aware of it, no doubt. We're aware of what everyone's doing. We respect what everyone's doing, but I don't think in any sports job you can say this team did X, so we better go do X. It's just there's so many examples. Stuff like that doesn't work. You have to worry about yourself.
Hey, Alex, based on the amount of innings that the bullpens had to cover and the rotation trying to cover more innings, was there a level of concern, a heightened level of concern heading into this deadline to try to address that?
Well, we talked a lot about, you're going to expand the roster come beginning of September, right? So in a lot of instances, Grant, like you talked about, we've churned, right? We've had to really move guys up and down, move guys through, and that's just to protect guys, right? Just if a game's out of reach or if we have a big lead, we get to save guys. Um, it'll help, look, we have the limits with the rules. The 13 and the 13, that's going to change come September. So look, we're very well aware of what we have ahead of us, the stretch of games. So we do have to navigate the month of August for sure. A guy like Suter, with the strike throwing and the ability to cover bulk and pitch almost every day. You'll look at his game log. He'll throw an inning. The next day he'll throw two. And then you guys know we always value this stuff. Just the clubhouse impact, the way he goes about it. We just think he's a perfect fit for our bullpen for some of those things, right? So, but look, it's something that we've absolutely talked through in terms of guys coming back from the IL, how things are going to go. And then once you get to September, I think there's the one more added arm with the roster would make a world of difference for us, but we have to get there. And I think you remember in 2024, just going into the break, Chris Sale was getting a lot of extra rest. And then coming out of the break in August, we were in a tough spot and we started going just 5-man rotation and not doing rest and so on. And I think it caught up to a lot of the guys, right? We had it happen before with Kyle Wright and Fried and some of the other guys. So we're aware of it. And we have talked about how to map out and game plan through the month of August to get to September.
Alex, were you ever close to acquiring a playoff caliber starter here over the last few days?
Yeah, I would say that look, it's hard for me to talk about deals that didn't get done. You know, we there was in our minds, and look, obviously the one guy did get traded, so obviously Skubal is as impactful as any starter that you're going to find, right? So that clearly was the best guy on the trade market that got moved to LA. And there was one other guy we thought was incredibly impactful as well in our minds, but beyond that, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about things that didn't get done.
Alex, just so I understand, when you were talking about only worrying about yourself, isn't one of the ways to keep people at bay, let's just say they're as good as you, is to push them back further by actually adding what would seem to be more impactful players to either separate, create a little bit more distance, or push somebody back. And I'm not talking specifically about anybody where you go, I wanted him, so they didn't get him. That's been part of this game forever. But can I ask just for clarification, when you only worry about yourself, isn't this at the end of today, and I sit back and I go, I think they got better, I think they got better, I think they got better. One of the ways that maybe I wouldn't feel that way is if you would distance yourself a little bit.
Yeah, look, and that's the thing. We don't know, right? Like, how many times do we say this team won the deadline or this team did this team did that? And then you look up and certain players were unbelievable. Certain players didn't play well. That's the toughest part is from here on forward, we're looking at 2-month sample sizes, right? We can look at the back of the baseball cards of some of these great players and say, we're all going to have opinions, right? And say this, like you said, just like in the offseason, right? We're going to say this team on paper looks great and so on. And then all of a sudden performances change, health, and it's very difficult for anybody. Of course, I understand people are going to have opinions. We're going to soon find out, right? What were the best acquisitions? Who were the best offensive players? Who were the best starters moved? Who were the best relievers moved? Who performed the best? We're going to find that out pretty soon, right? One way or the other. So I just think you've got 29 other clubs and your own roster, you're fit. Ultimately, you got to give to get. And ultimately, are you prepared to? You're always weighing short and long term. Are you willing to give what you think could be the Harrises or the Baldwins and so on? Are you willing to do that? In some instances, we make trades, we trade certain guys, and others, we hold them back. And we look back over time and we cross-check ourselves. So, but to sit there and say, this team did X, it doesn't always work out that way, that the projections, right? I mean, we see it. Look, you start looking at, I don't know what the preseason projections were for all these teams, but I don't know how accurate they were. I know that there's changes every year, right? Certain teams are expected. There were some teams that sold that people expected them to be good, and there's some teams that are buying that people didn't think they'd be contending. So I just think I don't think anyone's good enough to know what's going to happen, but you are expected to know your own team and your own organization when you're trading young players.
Can I just ask, do you think tomorrow you wake up and look after this all settles tonight, for whatever that is, before one game is played, do you think you'll believe that any National League teams did get better after this handful of days leading up to the trade deadline?
everybody, I mean, at the deadline, when you add, you get better, right? I mean, that's the point. If you're subtracting, you're getting worse. So, I mean, if you're adding players, now people may not like the players or may not agree, or people may debate what goes back, but I mean, I'm not trying to be, but if you're adding, in theory, you're getting better. You're adding to what you already have, you know? So now the player you add may get hurt or may not play well, you know, but that's in the moment when you're adding. Every GM will tell you, I added because I thought this made us better. And a team that's selling, saying, look, they're going to come out and do these Zoom calls and say, hey, we weren't looking to add. We were going to play for down the road. So absolutely, people that added got better. Sure. How much? 1%, 5%, 10% on paper, for sure. Everyone believes that. We'll find out what happens.
Sorry, Mark, was fair to say maybe the asking price was just too high to go get one of these big time starting pitchers?
Yeah, I mean, look, big time starters that's an opinion, right? So
Front
and
line
that's not to say there aren't. I mean, everyone values them their own way. There's certain guys that we would say are that, and some guys we think are solid, some guys are mid rotation, back rotation, and so on. I never agree with saying that, you know, because that's not, to me, that's just a disrespectful thing to say to the other teams, right? So the same way in the draft, you know, we all like different players. We have opinions right after the draft. This guy went too high. This guy went too late. And then we look up and the guy taken in the third round should have gone in the first. The guy taken in the first should have taken in the 20th, right? So the asks are the asks, and you've got a decision to make. But we always cross-check ourselves, right? Even now, you know, we were done at 6. Little quick post-mortem, 30 minutes. It's fresh in our mind. Let's review anything we look back on at this moment in time. You're always trying to review in real time and so on. And then, you know, you're going to document things and look back a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So deals get done, deals don't get done. Not everyone has the same values of players and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, look, a year ago at this time, I know there was, hey, why didn't Iglesias get traded? Which was fair. It's a very fair opinion to have. You know, it's going to be a free agent. We didn't look like we were going to make the playoffs. You know, at the time, could have moved him, but it would have been what would have entailed a salary dump, and we knew we wanted to sign him long term. So, had we not signed him back, or had there been a really good player offered, we'd look back and say we should have made the change. But it played out the way we wanted it to play out. So you just don't know. You really don't know. But we're all going to see, obviously, over the course of the next 2 months.
Alex, would you say in this era, we keep talking about playoff caliber starters, but we get to the playoffs and there's maybe teams have 1 or 2 starters that'll go more than 2 times through a lineup. So have we overvalued that pitcher, that type of pitcher now? Because teams have a bullpen that could be as strong as yours, where you have 4 strong relievers to shorten the game. Now, with that being said, when you walk away from this trade deadline, how confident are you that Suarez will be healthy enough to be one of those 4?
Yeah, I saw Suarez. I'm losing track of days because they all blend together. So actually, I saw Suarez today. I'm trying to remember now. I'm just trying to jog my memory because obviously we were playing over the weekend. And I said, how are you doing? He said, doing well, getting better every day. And so we can only go off of what he's telling us. He's healing. He's feeling better. We just reiterated to him. He said, I think I'm going to get going soon. And I just reminded him to say, look, this is about October, you know, and I know you want to get out there and you're feeling good. And let's just make sure we take the time we need, because if we rush even a little bit and there's a little bit of a setback, it's the way it works when you pitch, you get shut down and now you run the risk of losing more time. So I can be as confident as he feels good. He's feeling a lot better. He's improving daily. We don't have a date yet, but we're sitting here early August and he's moving in the right direction. But look, I mentioned this before. In the postseason, it's 27 outs, right? And you see it. Some starters go deep, they're rolling, and some of them get yanked, and everyone debates, should he have been pulled? Should he have stayed in? That's the beauty of postseason baseball. Are you making a decision? But look, there's no doubt that for the most part, because there's so few elite starters, bullpens are a big part of the playoffs. We've seen that, you know, so, but you ultimately, it depends on who you're going to face, right, left, all that kind of stuff. times through the order and all that. So we've seen teams win so many ways. We've seen them win with really deep bullpens. We've seen them win with good rotations. There's not one formula. We've seen it the back-to-back World Series champion teams. One year they were thin in the rotation with a great bullpen. The next year they're exceptionally deep in the rotation. They won both ways, so it's hard to say.
Alex, did you think about, or was there an opportunity to get what we would call a back end bullpen arm to maybe even shove even more numbers at somebody in the postseason? And could Fuentes then I hate opener, I don't even know what it's called anymore.
Sure.
But if you literally had big enough numbers, is that the guy that you actually think could open up a playoff game because you have 6, 7, 8, 9 covered in a way that would absolutely benefit you if the game was shorter that way?
Yeah, I guess I'd say this. We got to get there, right? And hopefully we get there. And, hopefully, I don't even remember if we do media before we get there. Walt certainly would. That'd be a conversation to see where we're at the next 2 months and how does it look. So our focus was making sure we get there. We still have 2 months. There's a long way to go. Like I said, there's going to be injuries the next 2 months for everybody. You still have an eye on, should you be fortunate enough to get to the postseason, you're still weighing all those things and you're looking at all those things. And some of the things you talked about, Chris, when you're talking about 27 outs, I think all those things would be in play and would be discussed, right? I mean, so we've seen teams do all kinds of things with openers and short starts and all this kind of stuff. So bullpen games, but it's all short guys going on short rest. We've seen that happen. So everything's in play when you're trying to win, but you cross that bridge when you get there and you see how guys are doing and so on. So right now the focus for us is we're playing well coming out of the break. We've got a nice lead, but it doesn't mean a thing. We've got another 2 months to go. The NL is very strong. There's great teams. Like you said, a lot of teams added, including us. And, guys are going to continue to get better. So we have to make sure that we keep our foot on the gas and try to get to the playoffs.
You traded Eli, obviously with Lane Thomas coming. Do you see that as a Lane Thomas Yaz type platoon? Does that put Dubon at short? How do you see Kim's role? I know you got a lot of moves, and
Right.
tell me that's Walt's decision.
So Walt and I haven't sat down, but look, Lane was going to take Eli's role. At the end of the day, look, there was a world we could have kept both. I think having left-handed bat on the bench is pretty important too. Again, I don't want to speak for Walt, but obviously Dubon's been in there every day, right? He's become an everyday player for us, whether that's like he played third the other day, right? Obviously he's played short, he's played left, he's played center, he's played everywhere. So Yaz, left-handed bat, Dom, left-handed bat. Kim's back obviously as well. Sean Murphy's back. So look, those are things that we're going to have conversations. It was difficult to have conversations because you don't know what deals might present themselves. Something occurs and then all of a sudden it changes. So Walt controls the lineup at the end of the day. So that's really for him to answer at this point, but we'll definitely have conversations. I haven't even had a chance to talk to him after we got done. I've been in communication with him and just filling him in on some things and talking through some things like that, whether if we had another right-handed bat, we had another left-handed bat positionally and so on, rotation, bullpen, all that kind of stuff. So he'll make those calls. I'm sure, I'll talk to him about it, but those are ultimately decisions he's going to make, and you guys will get him tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll have some thoughts.
Does this mean that Sean Murphy's up with Joey Bart out?
Correct.
You were asked earlier if a high asking price got in the way of a trade effort. Can I ask a slightly amended version of that question? Did a no trade clause get in the way of any effort today?
You should be a lawyer. It's a great question. Just trying to think how I answer this question.
I was careful not to mention any names.
Yeah, no, I would have all the respect in the world. There are various reasons why deals don't get done, and it's probably the same, it's not appropriate for me to discuss deals that didn't get done. Sorry for the lame answer.
Oh, I had to try.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it okay to ask that one this way? Was
Here we go.
a deal between you and an opposing another general manager done that was then brought to a player?
I would say the same thing I said before. It's probably not appropriate to talk about deals that weren't completed. I wish I could say more. It's just probably not appropriate.
Anybody got anything else for Alex?
Yeah, let me just the Hassan Kim thing. I know you said you have to talk to Walt. In your mind, how do you think that conversation is going to go?
With Walt?
Yeah, and
I mean, there's no conversation. I mean, you say it's gonna go. There's no. I mean, what I'm saying when you say there's no like, oh, we have to have a big powwow meeting. It's. I mean, I have a general idea that Jarvis has played great, and again, I don't want to speak for him because he's going to set the lineup up, but he's the left-handed bat. He's been exceptional defensively for us. I know he's had some errors at times, but we've seen him make some incredible plays. The arm strength is as good as you're going to find. And he swung the bat well. He's been a contributing player. But look, Walt's going to decide the lineup and things like that. But I think, you guys had asked him about that. I don't want to speak for him, but I think, he's reiterated the same things, that Jim's played really well. And look, Jorge, didn't get a lot of at-bats since Jim's taken over the everyday job, right? I think the last time Jorge got in there was against the lefty we faced Rogers on the first game against the Orioles. And, Walt's been playing Jim the entire way because he's bringing a ton defensively, and he's contributed with the bat as well. So that's up to Walt, of course. And just like when he gave Jorge that start against Trevor Rogers, that was his decision. Now, there's times where he wants to get everybody involved, wants to give guys a day. Here's the thing, too, is, look, obviously with a left-handed bat, no matter who the left-handed bat is, right? Yaz or Dom and so on. Just because you start a righty, and I'm not trying to telegraph or foreshadow, but just because you start a righty doesn't mean that other guy's not going to get in there, right? The starter comes out of the game, all of a sudden everyone ends up getting used. So same thing with the left-handed bats that start against the righty. They bring in the left-handed reliever, and Walt's been pretty good about really taking advantage and trying to use the entire team that he has and his entire bench. So that's his style. That's what he believes in. My expectation would be that it would continue, but look, he reserves the right to change his mind if things have changed, right? Mateo played really well that series against the Reds, and he got more playing time. I think he started him 4 or 5 games in a row. Jarvis came up, and he started giving him starts. So, same way Dom got starts, or Yaz got starts, or so on. So I think Walt's been very consistent across the board. He's going to put the guys out there he thinks gives them the best chance to win.
Okay, and let me, if I just can, if Walt controls lineup, obviously you control.
Always been that way,
right? So you control roster. Was this a fait
with Walt though? With Walt, I always same thing with Snit. If we're going to call up so and so, and he's not going to use them, and so on, and all that kind of stuff, So at the end of the day, the division of labor. At the end of the day, Walt can't manage the game, be in the clubhouse, be in the front office, doing transaction. I guess someone could do it, but it'd probably be pretty hard to do both, right? Yeah. So, sports is, but you work together all the time with everything that you're doing. Look, I talked through with him, hey, we have a chance to add another right-handed bat. I called him this morning, and you think you're going to use this guy? You think you're going to play this guy? Because if you don't, I shouldn't go down the path. And hey, this is a pretty interesting guy, might hit in the middle against a left-handed starter and so on, but how does it affect playing time for other guys? Pinch hitting, this and that. So you talk through all those things. So if he ultimately doesn't feel like he's going to use that guy, or the role is going to make sense, or will this guy be satisfied in that type of role? Is he going to fit in the clubhouse? What do you think? It's very easy for me to come up with on a sheet of paper. He has to manage it, right? So he's got to feel good about it. And if guys aren't going to be used, same thing with some of the guys we call up in the pen. So Walt is very involved in terms of how he would like to manage the roster and the team, and we work together on that stuff.
Well, because I know Kim's time is up, was there any consideration to not having him come back and join the club?
No, he's a guy that's been a successful player in the past. Obviously was playing shortstop, was signed to play shortstop. That changed. with the performance. He's a guy that's played second, played third. His career in back of the baseball card, he's more accomplished and more established than Jorge, and that's not to disparage Jorge. I mean, that's just reality of careers and so on. And I think just across the board, we ultimately were going to go with him. So that was always in the plans, that we were going to go with him. There was no scenario. He was always going to be back. And again, your bench, sometimes they're used, sometimes they're not, right? So it changes and it evolves.
You're saying that I guess you're saying Mateo is probably DFA'd. But the thing
He is, yeah. Have we not? I thought that was announced. He's DFA'd.
The approval just came in from MLB, so yes.
Okay, sorry, but okay, I thought you guys knew. Sorry. So yeah, Mateo has been DFA'd, did a really nice job for us. But again, I don't have it in front of me, but the playing time had dried up for him, and we got one game in the outfield, but played obviously predominantly short when he did get in there, came in a pinch run. And, but again, we ultimately elected to go with Kim.
That's fine. But let me ask this. It feels like Dubon should be the starting shortstop. And if Dubon's a starting shortstop, why would you keep Jarvis up?
But he's not the starting. He's not, but we've made that decision.
So Jarvis is the starting shortstop, but Dubon's is going to be rotating.
I would say this right now. The way I'm not into giving titles, right? Because it changes, right? Things change. Things other than certain guys like Olsen and so on. Dubon's values, he could play all over the field. He played center field for a while, right? We lost Ronald and so on. He became an everyday left fielder. He started the season playing everyday shortstop. So a big part of his ability and his value is that he could play everywhere. So having titles and so on. Walt has been giving the lion's share of shortstop starts to Jim Jarvis. So that is how he's gone about doing that. That's his choice to make. That's the determination he made, and he's been going with that. So that doesn't mean that things can't change. Now, performance, I think the perfect example is when Mateo, I think, got 3-4 starts in a row. It was the same thing. Is he now the new starting shortstop? And Walt said, I'm going day to day with this thing, and I just don't think we need to anoint anybody, right? Like you guys will see the lineup each day, especially a guy like Dubon. I mean, again, I don't want to speak for Walt, but Dubon has worked his way into an everyday role, and we know he can play all 3 infield spots, all 3 outfield spots. So barring Walt deciding to change that, he's an everyday player for us. Where it's going to be, that's going to be up to Walt. And that's the beauty of a player like that, because he protects you. Someone's banged up, someone's starting to slump. There's a different matchup and so on. You've seen him line up the lefties, the righties, things like that. We're making changes in game with the way the relievers are being used. So there's certain guys that are established. Ronald's the everyday right fielder. Harris is the everyday center fielder. Obviously Olsen and so on. But other than that, Walt, you guys have watched him now for 4 months.
I want to ask about AJ Smith-Shawver. We saw him come back. You've talked about navigating these innings over the final couple of months. Obviously, he's a high upside arm, but coming back from Tommy John, I know in the past you haven't wanted to talk about innings limits and things like that. Maybe it's something you guys keep internal. I'm sure you're clocking all of it, but what is the plan for him? Where does he fit? And what's the realistic expectation for him to make an impact over the final couple of months and maybe into October?
Yeah, so look, he pitched well enough to stay. And the issue was being used in a doubleheader as a 27th man. He went back and he was now optioned for the first time, and now you're in the 2-week limit. But and it was strictly because he wasn't going to be available for the next 4 days. He was going to be out the next 4 days. And we had a 4-game series with the Washington Nationals, one of the best offenses in the game, and then going into the off day. So we knew if we kept him, he wasn't available until the next week. And that just did with playing the doubleheader, it felt like that wasn't the right move and the smart move. But performance wise, he absolutely earned the right to stay. It's just we were going to be short. So no, there's not a limit. We take it like with all these guys day by day, sides, how they're feeling, things like that stuff. We monitor that, but I just don't think there's a formula that says this percentage and so on. I've tried it as a young GM. I don't think anyone solved it. Even in LA and so on, no one's really solved that. So we continue to watch it. I expect him to be a part of this again because of the 2 weeks, barring an IL. He's likely to get at least 2 more starts down in Gwinnett. I believe he's starting tomorrow. So just because of the nature of being down you can only come back on day 16. He'll get a minimum of 2, unless there's an IL and he was to come back sooner. But our goal is to get him at least 2 more, and then he'll be eligible to come back, and we'll see where we're at on all this.
Bigger picture question. I don't know if you're on the record. You probably are at some point. Do you like the idea that your 26-man roster has a limit of 13 pitchers? And isn't
No.
this sort of okay?
Don't like it.
So isn't this a
But
case?
we all play with the same rule, so
I get
it's
it.
not a complaint. It's just that's my opinion, right?
So structure of a ball. Okay. Has it ever been explained to you why it actually is in place then? Because how I put together my ball club and how I use my options should be my business.
Yeah, and I look, I understand the arguments for both. Look, this rule was put in place a few years ago. All of us are working with the same rules, so there's no complaining. Like anything else, you say vanilla ice cream or chocolate, I get an opinion, right? But doesn't mean the other one's wrong. So I understand why the league and the union and so on, everyone works together. The thought was done for something like this. We're all operating with the same rules, and but look, obviously, like anything, everyone, we enjoy having flexibility. I think for us that have more everyday position players, some teams that are more heavier on a bench with a bunch of platoons, maybe having a 1-man shorter bullpen makes sense for them. A club like ours where guys play every day, I think in a perfect world for us and the way we like to construct things, 1 less bat on the bench and another arm, we would prefer that, and but I can guarantee you, of the 30 clubs, I remember when the rule went into place, I think at the time it was the middle of the season, we all had to get down to 13. I think half the teams were at 14 arms and 12 bats, and the other half were at 13 arms, 13 bats. So I get it, right? I don't think you'd have a consensus amongst all teams. Some want to go heavy on the position player side because they don't have a Matt Olson, right? They have probably a left-handed bat and a right-handed bat. They want both guys.
All right. Any last ones for Alex? All righty. Appreciate the time. Thanks everybody for joining.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.